What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
With good old humor, man. With good old humor, not a good old humor.
Yeah, good old humor, man.
Yeah.
This is the third episode of the week. First day of July.
Yeah, the second half of 2022.
Yeah, that means we are officially in the second half.
Correct.
Will you wake up today with a spring in your step or anything?
I'm not one of those people that
Have a spring in their step, is it? When they wake up.
Puts a lot of they're like, oh, today is the first day of the second half of the. Yeah, I used to work with someone like that. It was damn fucking annoying because every day is the first and only day like this of forever, right?
So when would that person say it?
The start of every week or the start of every quarter.
They would say it to you.
Yeah, in meetings or what. Today is the first day of the month. So today is the first day of the quarter. Today is the first day of the second half of the and then trying to add more significance into the shit they were saying, which is like, just say what you need to say. Don't need to tell these grandfather stories and all that.
So he was like a superior or colleague or.
Yeah. So the big boss, but it's
big boss.
Stupid. Yeah.
Yeah.
They just see some grandiosity. Is it delusions of grandeur when it comes to? I mean, it's just time moving, you know.
Yeah. No, I will say that I think there is some truth to if you're going through a shit period, right? Doesn't mean that the next few days or next few weeks are going to be bad, lah. And I remember telling myself that at times in the past, maybe whatever happened, that's the past. Okay, you have a chance to make it better, lah. But I wouldn't say it to other people, especially at the workplace, lah.
Yeah. I think that's when it gets annoying.
Yeah, lah.
Yeah. Imposition of.
For a moment, when you said you work with someone who said that, I was like, don't tell me this fucker is talking about me. I never said that shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not you. You're the stuff you say is it's a separate case of issues, separate basket of issues.
Yeah, you speak as though you're so innocent.
Exactly. Yeah. All of us have our quirks.
Exactly.
So I'm just saying it's not. This one is not referring to you. Don't worry.
All of us have our quirks. Cool, man.
But
Alright. So we got a spicy topic to, a surprisingly spicy topic, lah. Initially, I wasn't the keenest, but it turned out to be spicy. But before
I'm quite surprised that you were not the keenest about it, because it's right up your alley.
Yeah, I can explain why. I can explain why. But before what is the one thing we want to say to our dear listeners?
I think one of the often neglected aspects of our podcast has been YouTube for various reasons. I mean, the honest thing is that producing videos of every single podcast is quite an endeavor. So we've right now, by rule of thumb, we only post video interviews that we've done with guests, videos of the video interviews, but we're kind of relooking what we can do for YouTube in general, and we realized that there is a whole spectrum of listeners, some of whom only use YouTube. They only use YouTube to consume content. So we're actually thinking of ways that we can get the audio experience of Yalla Butt to more people. And I think Harish had the idea, why not we just post the audio onto YouTube itself, without the glorious our faces in glorious HD. To accompany the audio, right?
Yeah.
And then we thought, actually that makes a lot of sense. YouTube, I mean, it's meant to be a search engine as well. So I think going forward we'll be doing a lot more of that. So if you're a big YouTube consumer like I am, do make sure to follow and subscribe us on YouTube.
Yeah, because we have had requests, and I think some people, they play it without even watching the video. And that's how we've seen other podcasts do it as well. And we're like, yo man, why not?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But this video...
on occasion, if we do want to show our faces, we will show our faces as well.
Yeah, like this episode.
Like this episode.
Our glorious faces, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Correct. Cool. All right, man. So then we can dive into the first topic.
Yeah, let's dive into the first topic.
Which is in some way poetic, because we're talking about things that were spoken about during a podcast. Or like an interview, right?
Yeah, a 24-minute podcast, BBC
24-minute
podcast.
podcast. Between our dear Shanmugam with and Steven Sakur, who is a BBC journalist, and he's also the host of BBC's HardTalk show, where it's basically an interview format, like, where they've had a huge list of well-known figures, international figures, celebrities, and he himself has interviewed quite a lot of prominent individuals, like including Lee Hsien Loong back in 2017.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, but
And they're known to not pull any punches when it comes to asking questions. Right.
So, okay, when they say not pull any punches, but isn't that saying that they're not going to punch, but they are punching one? So why the phrase pull any punches? I always get confused by that phrase.
When you pull any punches means you pull back, lah. You don't punch.
But then if you
hold
pull
back,
a fast one, you do a fast one.
You pull a fast one. I think it means like you pulling a hood over someone's head. But when it comes to boxing, when you pull a punch means you hold back, lah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm a stupid. Like, you pull a prank also, right? You don't not do the prank.
Yeah. So like a prank again is the analogy of like you're pulling the hood over someone's head, lah. But when you pull a punch, is a different thing, lah. I mean, this is like our discussion about falling through and falling to place. Remember?
Oh yeah, correct.
Right. The English language is very beautiful that way. I mean, beautiful and silly that way.
Yeah.
Like, you just change one word, the whole meaning changes, lah. Right.
Yeah, I would like to ask Steven Sakur that question.
Yeah,
what is the difference? But yes, regardless, there were some hard questions, lah. But it was, I mean, it was released on Wednesday, so 29th July. And I mean, today there's just a bunch of articles.
29 June.
Yeah. A bunch of articles talking about the main topics, and the Ministry of Home Affairs also just uploaded the whole transcript.
That's right.
But yeah, why were you so excited to talk about this?
I mean, I was quite intrigued by the headline, which I thought would draw in people like you, to really want to like rant about it and everything.
Just
and the headline was about whether Singapore is ready for a non-Chinese prime minister, right? I mean, essentially, I think the specific segment in the interview, Steven Sakur, he asks, he tells Shanmugam, like, isn't it, since Lawrence Wong has been anointed the next PM, Singapore is going to have its fourth majority race prime minister since independence and everything, lah. So, an accomplished politician or minister like yourself, how come? Surely, isn't it sad that you as a minority you never get a shot at being PM? He made that assertion immediately that he almost asking him like, don't you find it a sad situation? And so I think that dovetails a lot with that outrage about the non-Chinese PM, Singapore not ready for non-Chinese PM comments that I think Heng Swee Keat made a long time ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just a very big. It seemed like that seemed like a huge like it's just bait bait for Shanmugam to jump in and destroy the argument and everything.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be a lot more his response or what would be more dissected and more covered in the news than it actually has been, right?
You mean the Singapore news, lah?
Yeah. I think Singapore news has played it down quite a bit, lah.
How to play it up, bro?
But it hasn't like captured the headlines, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I was curious. How come for you it wasn't even as exciting a topic as you imagined?
I think because when I saw the headlines, the headlines on Mothership is Singapore government engaging in wide set of consultations on 377A, including with LGBTQ plus community, Shanmugam. Just now, I think the one you said about the race thing is one of the many headlines that we've seen, because there's another headline, entirely possible for Malay or Indian to be PM in Singapore, Shanmugam. And the headlines were just pieces of it. So in my mind, I was like, okay, this is just, I don't know, he was at some forum or something. So admittedly, I didn't dive deep into listening to the podcast before we decided to rank it. Because reading the article also, it just seemed so factual.
So basically, you read the headline, you judged it based on the headline, lah.
Yes, on a few headlines, and the body of text,
Okay.
Yes, I will totally admit I did that.
Got it.
But yeah, I'm glad that you pushed for it, because when I listened to the podcast, like 5 minutes in, I was like, oh my God, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And then
interesting.
I mean, I hadn't listened to the podcast yet at the point where I was like, hey, let's talk about this topic. But I felt like, oh, if it's Shanmugam on Hard Talk, it shouldn't. I don't think it's that kind of walk in the park that Shanmugam usually experiences when talking to people in Singapore and all that, like, Hard Talk,
Correct.
because Hard Talk has a reputation for pushing quite hard on the interviewees. But what
Yeah.
about the interview made you say, oh shit,
I mean, okay, so after listening to the whole interview, which I recommend everybody just try and listen to, even for a bit to get a taste of it, I thought it was interesting because yeah, he asked questions that I'm sure anyone would love to ask, and there's a difference between reading a response in the paper as opposed to hearing the person being asked the question respond over audio, lah, right? Because when he asked certain questions, I mean, there are many thoughts about how he asked the questions and the questions he asked. But when he asked the question, ultimately, yeah, Shanmugam is there to answer. He can't deflect to anyone.
Yeah.
He can't say, oh, Speaker of the House, blah, 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 blah. He has to answer it. Lah.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, shit, I really enjoyed it. I think that's the best podcast I've listened to this week.
Yeah, and I think I don't know, for me it's the first time I hear someone almost speaking over Shanmugam at certain points.
Yeah, that's true.
Not only pushing back on the ideas, but speaking over him, interrupting him, not letting him finish his lines, which is what Shanmugam usually does to everyone who talks to him.
Yeah, I
So
guess
it was
maybe
kind of like, whoa, shit, man, did not expect that.
exactly. I think that was part of the I've never seen this happen before, or at least in
Spicy.
recent times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spicy.
But you have to. But what do you think of how Shanmugam handled a lot of the questions? I mean, regardless of the content of what he said and all that.
I actually thought he was good, man.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I have
thought-
to admit he was well prepared. Like, he was very well prepared.
Yeah, he was fucking well prepared. And like, if I was a neutral party listening to him, I can imagine myself maybe disagreeing with the law, but holy shit, there's a certain level of like, okay, this guy, he's not just some aimless politician who don't know how he ended up there. He's he's what you would expect of a law minister, lah.
Yeah. And I mean, and his direct answer to the question of Singapore having 4 Chinese PMs since independence. He's like, I mean, come on, look at the UK. How many non-white prime ministers have you had? And then like, race matters. It's like you almost like it was such a almost like a mic drop kind of moment. Like, who are you to question and criticize Singapore for racial inequality and all that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that made me think, I'm sure the questions are given beforehand, lah. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, he was almost. It felt almost like he had the statistics just off the top of his head. Like he really knew what he was going to say for each of them. But at the same time, Shanmugam is
Machine.
I mean, he's a lawyer, lah, right? He knows his shit well, and he's got the facts and the figures. And the one thing that was really another thing that was really quite surprising to me was the way they debated about the death penalty in Singapore. I think you could really hear the conviction in Shanmugam's arguments, right? The conviction of why capital punishment is necessary in dealing with drugs, and he also came prepared. I don't know how accurate or correct these examples are, because I've seen on both sides of the aisle, both sides of the aisle have brought up very shady references for the case for legalizing drugs and the case for against taking a hard stand against drugs. I've seen shady sources on both sides, so I'm not sure how good those sources are. But the very fact that he had them off the top of his head and he could bring out examples from around the world, everything, showed that he was really well prepared, lah. And like you said, a neutral listener would be like, this guy has a point,
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, the thing is, okay, so if you haven't listened to it yet, just broadly speaking, the main pillars that Stephen Sacco asked him about was like, it starts off with political control, about how the laws that were enacted in the 1960s by Lee Kuan Yew has stood for 50 plus years. Is it time for it to evolve given the social control and freedom? And then that went on to the death penalty for drug traffickers. And just, like what Terence said, the verbal jousting between the policies of Singapore versus what the rest of the world thinks Singapore should be doing. And then Section 377A about the why that hasn't been repealed yet, and why homosexuality between a man or the act of homosexuality is still a crime. And then the last one was racial discrimination and the Chinese PM. Oh, sorry, that was second to last. The last one was about FICA, the foreign interference law. Right.
Yeah.
So that was the gist of it. And like just hearing those topics already, I mean, reading it is one thing, but listening to it, it is damn interesting, because like what you said, right? I can't recall a time where someone could ask Shanmugam that wasn't in parliament. And like as articulately as Steven Sakura. Like, I mean, we can talk about the questions he asked, but there's just a certain weight of him, I guess, because it's a level, it's one-on-one, right?
Yeah. And I mean, to this Steven Sakura's credit, he when Shanmugam did the Lee Kuan Yew thing, show me the evidence, where's the evidence of this racial discrimination or that? To his credit, he brought up the thing about discrimination in rental, in that minorities have in finding rental flats, and discrimination they face finding jobs, because of Mandarin, you don't speak Mandarin or whatever like that. So he had those examples at his fingertips as well. So he was I would say pretty well informed for a foreign journalist, right? I mean, non-Singaporean, because these are very issues that are very close to the ground that I don't think anybody randomly would just know about or hear of, but the one thing I was like, wow, the one that I saw Shanmugam was just relishing in his mic drop moment was when he I mean, he paraphrased Stalin, right? He said like, "Oh, the death of one drug trafficker by hanging is a tragedy, but the death of 1 million by due to drug trafficking becomes just a statistic."
Oh, that was Stalin who said it.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, the death of one's a tragedy, the death of 1 million is just a statistic. Yeah. So, but he basically was what do you call it? Paraphrase that to say that we all hear the media. You're also focused talking about that one capital punishment issue that of that Malaysian trafficker who was sentenced to death here.
Yeah,
you're talking about that and calling it tragedy and saying that Singapore's reputation will sink and everything, but you don't think about the 3,000 lives. 3,000 traffickers that were arrested who would have affected thousands more of Singaporeans' lives. So, I mean, whichever side of the fence you're on about that, you also can't argue against his stance to say that he's first and foremost trying to, protect the local population,
Yeah. So I mean, we've spoken a lot about Shanmugam and his answers, and I mean, like certain things he said also, I felt we've heard before, when he talked about his experience as a minority in Singapore and that of others is a lot better than minorities in other countries. Which, I mean, you can imagine to be true, but it's also kind of using his own experience, which I thought, we have heard that before. But then while he had a lot of conviction in his answers, he didn't say anything that a Singaporean has not heard before. But if we go over to the other side, what do you think of Steven Sakura?
I mean, that's why I think, like what I said earlier, I thought he came also well prepared with with evidence to back up some of his assertions and all that. Of course, given the style of the show and how he's probably like we would expect, when it's BBC HardTalk, right? For those of you maybe too young to or never heard of it, they've always been known to ask these kind of push and ask these kind of questions, and almost to a point where they may be almost too focused on the negative portrayals of Singapore in the media, right? Like, I mean, there was no mention of the fact that Singapore has come out from COVID relatively unscathed, right? Of course, there were failures along the way, but the fact that a vaccine was delivered to almost 95% of the population and everything is a huge success, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is a bit of that. Let's look past all the good things that you've done and talk about how draconian society you guys live in, and Well, but the one thing to remember is that this draconian society is one that a lot of foreigners are moving into as well, lah, and clamoring to buy property here and causing us locals also to, reckon with higher property prices and then higher cost of living and everything, lah. So yeah, you can say a lot of things about Singapore, but there's also certain probably more positive aspects that definitely he didn't touch on.
Yeah. So I mean, I think while I get that this is a TV show, that they are meant to ask questions, and maybe if you ask Steven Sakura off, he also might agree that okay, it's not the most objective, but just listening to it, I mean, he starts off. There's all this mention that these draconian laws, and I think at one point when he was talking about 377A, he said, what on earth is the justification for that? So the whole interview, it really felt like, okay, the stereotypical mindset or perception of what Singapore is, right? He just fucking okay, this is my understanding of Singapore, and can you explain why? And I found it annoying at times because it is just, I get you're trying to push the right buttons, or push some buttons, but to the listener who maybe might not understand the full context of Singapore, it really paints us like a fucking prison of a country, man.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, and that's damn annoying because it just felt like a lot of questions you are already kind of seeding a bias in the listener, lah.
Yes. I mean, the whole intro was like basically painting Singapore out to be this like nanny state and scary place and harsh laws and death penalty and everything. Disneyland, the death penalty. That whole very contrived Western image. That you and I, a lot of times when we were studying in the US, we had to endure that, all right? I heard they cane you in Singapore for chewing gum.
Yeah.
That's the constant refrain that we always hear. But I mean, it did reek a bit of that, lah. But again, I point to the fact that he had evidence, or at least he had done a bit of his homework, lah, right? And he did speak to certain things that people on the ground really face, like the rental discrimination issues or the Mandarin only, for job applicants and things like that, lah.
Yeah.
I think Shanmugam's answer to that was that 93% of Singaporeans actually stay and own their own property. So actually maybe you are confusing xenophobia and racial inequality in Singapore.
Okay,
racial issues in Singapore. What do you think of the answer then?
I mean, I think because then it became like an argument of stats, which they are not going to be able to verify on the thing. On the podcast itself, and it just felt like it's more about how convinced you are saying the stats that makes you the winner, and I say winner in air quotes, because even that stats, 93% of people live in their own homes. I don't know, it sounds more
own and live in their own homes.
Own and live. I'm like, maybe that is by household, but you get a lot of people who grew up in Singapore, or an increasing number that they are renting, but their home address is still their home, So it just feels like the stats are they all came very prepared with the stats, that's why it made me feel like, okay, there was some idea of the questions that would come up. I don't know, maybe Shanmugam, who deals with this day in, day out, he knows the stats at the back of his mind, and he is a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
He's been a minister for 14 years.
Yeah. And I'm sure he's he's very media savvy.
Yeah.
Shanmugam that way. So I'm sure he knows that when a politician goes on the HardTalk on BBC, global audience, HardTalk, everything, it's like for a politician, it's probably like WrestleMania. It's like facing the Undertaker at WrestleMania. That kind of thing. This is your moment, your chance to shine, and highly likely you will get destroyed by the Undertaker at WrestleMania, lah. The whole thing. Undertaker's record at WrestleMania is 21-1 or something like that, lah.
Yeah.
So everyone who goes to fight him at WrestleMania is almost like you go there expecting to lose, but you fight against the Undertaker at WrestleMania, which is like the biggest honor in wrestling,
Yeah.
So it's like, Shanmugam knew that he would be getting into this almost like political fist fight with the host, and then he was prepared, he had all his stats lined up, and he's probably rehearsed, and he knew what he was going to say, everything very well already,
Yeah.
And, but like you said, the format of the interview doesn't allow for a deeper conversation or understanding of these issues, which is why I still enjoy when people are able to sit down and have conversations on podcasts, like really conversations like human beings on podcasts, and not just like, okay, answer this as the caricature of the law minister of Singapore, that kind of stance against it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, like, part of me was like, there was there even a point to that interview, But yeah, I think there totally is a point because it is still refreshing. Because like, I think if you just look at Singapore politics or Parliament or the Committee of Privileges, there is a clear dynamic there where people don't answer back to politicians like Shanmugam, right?
Yeah. Right.
But in this case, he did push back. He did point out certain things that okay, I will find an example, but he would challenge to a certain extent, and of course Shanmugam would challenge back. But it was nice to see that dynamic, and it almost makes you feel like, okay, if you know your facts, if you have a high conviction, yeah, this is what a debate should be like,
Yeah.
And I just thought, hey, that's why I enjoyed it so much. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And it's a very very tight 24 minutes, because I think it was filmed for TV as well. It was done over a call and filmed for TV, so there was no time to really long pauses or chit chats and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, the one thing that I found comedic almost was when Steven Sakura was saying, like, there's the Economist kind of said there is I mean, he highlighted some examples from magazines that saying, as a result of the execution of that one drug trafficker, Singapore's reputation is being tarnished.
Drug trafficker, not drag.
Oh, drug trafficker. Drug trafficker. Yeah, apologies for that. The drug trafficker. It is Singapore's reputation is like being tarnished and going down. And that just felt like, in the context of how the global superpowers, including the UK, are not at the top of their game. And like what you said also, like where Singapore's reputation as a place that is desired by people around the world to come and work, it felt like, okay, yo man, you're extrapolating that one tarnishing a bit much.
Yeah.
And this is separate aside from what we think about the death penalty as well, because we've covered it on a previous episode. But just, it was a lot of, is it hyperboles? Is that a correct word? Hyperboles that were thrown around.
Yeah. I mean, hyperbole.
I thought it was hyperbole.
Hyperboles.
Hyperboles,
okay, let's settle this once and for all.
It's a hyperbole. It's not a hyperbole. Hyperbole is like
hyperbole.
Yeah, but you say hyperbole.
No, I wasn't very sure. That's why I was like,
it's a hyperbole. Hyperbole.
Yeah. Can you use a bit more simple language now, and stop like trying to flex just because you heard Shanmugam flexing?
Oh, sorry. Exaggeration.
So Harish is so the example of sentence is like, Harish is the king of hyperbole, especially in his epic rants. That's the example, right?
I guess so, yes.
No, it means people who speak in extremes and always like sort of sound the alarm for worst case scenarios and all that.
Yeah, pot calling the kettle black, Mr. Every cyclist is a horrible person.
Yeah. But no, I think you were asking earlier about, was there a use to this? Was there a point to this interview and all that? I think if anything, I think both of them came out pretty strong from the interview, right? Like you said, I mean, his reputation as a HardTalk, the pushing the buttons of that people rarely ever push. That's Steven Sakura, right? That's his reputation now. And Shanmugam again as the fucking, the, what do you call it? He's that guardian at the gates, right? Anytime foreigners come and try and scold Singapore and all that, he's the one that, okay, let's stop this nonsense now, Yeah. This is the Singapore way of it, But I mean, do you agree? I mean, I thought he one interesting thing, last interesting thing that I thought was that he made a very what I thought was a very interesting back of the envelope, or back of the tissue, or back of the serviette, whatever, back of the napkin, serviette we use serviette in Singapore, right? Serviette. Back of the serviette calculation of like how how likely it is for a Malay or Indian prime minister, or Malay or Indian candidate to become prime minister, right?
Who made the calculation?
Shanmugam. He said something
Okay.
about there's a 20% gap because just in terms of like people having a racial preference for their own prime minister, for their prime minister of their own race. So I think he made the assessment that I think based on statistics, based on their own surveys and understandings of people's preferences, that there's basically a 20% gap that a minority candidate would have to overcome in order to have a higher chance than a majority candidate You know,
And that's just to overcome the population percentage lah.
I don't think it's the population percentage per se, but probably the racial preferences per se lah. They're saying that not all Chinese will only vote Chinese lah. There's probably like maybe there's a number like 70% or something that will vote, or 60 or 50 or 60% that will vote only Chinese lah. And because I'm sure there are Chinese who don't mind having a minority PM lah. Yeah. So I think it's just he was saying it not just based on the population numbers, but actually based on the statistics of people who have preferences for a certain race for PM.
Oh, so I mean, yeah, he didn't mention that was probably from a study they did or something lah.
Yeah, he didn't mention that. Yeah, he didn't mention specifically.
Yeah, so the answers all very very textbook lah, and like it's still kind of logical answers. But you can disagree with the overall answer about whether or not there's really systemic discrimination or not, because he did point out that there is racism in Singapore, but the question is how systemic it is lah. So I think it was almost like it was a politician's performance lah. I think he did well as a politician.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. But yeah, I think everyone should go and listen to it. You can find it on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, give it a chance. Don't just read the headlines, and give the topic a chance.
Yeah. Give the topic a chance lah. See, that is a backhanded Soviet dig at me lah, right?
Backhanded Soviet dig.
Backhanded Soviet dig.
Use the Soviet to dig.
You turn the back of your hand, you pick up the Soviet.
Put a
with
Soviet
the
over it and whack it.
and then yeah.
But but that's the that's the law minister that we have.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean we're moving on from one interesting, almost legalistic kind of battle to an actual legal battle that is dominating the headlines, even in Singapore and even Malaysia as we speak.
And
Harish,
this one,
I know you love this topic, so
this one, unlike the first topic where my initial apprehension was overwhelmed by a positive affirmation, this one I'm like, Terrence, why the fuck are we talking about this? Why do you want to talk about this?
Everyone is talking about
Why?
this.
Doesn't mean
everyone, even Xia Xue is talking about this.
Doesn't mean because everyone's talking about it, we need to talk about it. Okay.
No, we need to talk about it because it is a very yalabatable topic.
Is it? Okay, please explain why. But let me give the context first.
Yeah, I'll let you say the headline and give the timeline.
I mean, unfortunately, there are many headlines because it is in the mainstream news. It's basically the one headline that I'm reading from Mothership: Singapore influencer Rachel Wong ordered by High Court to share correspondence with two men involved in alleged infidelity. So I think this case first made the rounds like maybe a couple of months ago. Or maybe even earlier than that. And it's been ongoing. And now finally the latest thing is basically Rachel Wong, who's an influencer, has to hand over, or is being ordered to hand over her diary entries, messages with the two men who she was alleged to be infidel.
Infidel. She's been unfaithful
with lah. Yeah. So that's where we're at now. Of course, there's a lot of history that I think Terrence is can't wait to dive into lah.
Yeah.
Okay, please, Terrence, take the mic, take the floor.
I thought you were going to give a big timeline on everything.
Oh, the timeline. But the timeline, finding like how you say a comprehensive timeline was not the easiest thing to do.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
do you?
I'll give a succinct. I'll just give a succinct summary of what's been happening, lah.
Okay, can.
So there is a fitness influencer, Rachel Wong, who had a very highly publicized wedding with a national footballer, good-looking guy called Uplin. Is it Uplin?
Anders Alps. Anders
Uplin, right?
Alplin. Yeah, Alplin.
Anders Uplin, good-looking national footballer guy, and she's Rachel Wong, the fitness influencer with over 40,000 followers on Instagram. They had a highly publicized wedding. That was all over the news, but not all the news, like all over social media. But then subsequently, right after the wedding, I think she went on a solo trip to India, and once she got back from the solo trip to India, she annulled the wedding lah. She filed an annulment of the wedding lah. I guess it was there were a lot of rumors swirling around at that point of time, a lot of alleged things that were happening. So everything we say is from what we read in the papers and what allegedly happened lah. So apparently allegedly there was a third party involved who happened to be this actor, Alan Wan, from Hong Kong, who seemed to be a very good friend of hers lah. But the alleged things that happened and were stated subsequently in an Instagram post by a friend of the ex-husband's new girlfriend. Yeah, so this friend, her name is Olivia Wu, and she's the one who's being sued by Rachel Wong in this defamation case lah. This Olivia Wu put out on Instagram, I think in Instagram stories, alleging that this Rachel Wong had cheated on her husband, even prior to the wedding already. But apparently, even on the wedding night itself, she slept with this third party, Alan, and Alan also happened to be the MC for the wedding lah.
Yeah.
So just imagine, the bride sleeping with the MC of her own wedding lah. So that was what was alleged in one of the things, and I think she also alleged that Rachel Wong had also a relationship with a gym trainer prior to getting married and everything as well.
Yeah.
So all this, I mean, I think there were other very other details of infidelity and all that you can also you can dig up lah if you really read the article. But the point here is that after that, Rachel Wong had decided to sue this Olivia Wu for defamation. And then after suing for defamation, this Olivia Wu also she requested to be able to access, as part of the process of discovery lah, right? In terms of getting evidence, she requested to be able to access the Rachel Wong's diary entries, as well as the correspondence between her and her gym trainer, and her and Alan Wu as well lah, for a period of a number of years.
Alan Wan.
Alan Wu,
different lah, bro.
Alan Wan.
Alan Wan, yeah.
Don't sue me, Alan Wu. But yeah, so she requested that level of detail lah, which apparently the courts prior to the court granted, the judicial court granted, and then Rachel Wong's side was very unhappy at that. They're like, why do I have to help my opponent, by giving them more information or evidence? And she appealed to the High Court, and the High Court turned around and threw it back at her, saying that no, this is this is totally relevant for the case lah, to make it to show that you are actually being defamed,
Yeah.
So he has granted, the High Court judge has granted the defendant access to her Rachel Wong's diary entries, as well as the correspondence with the two men. But at the same time, the judge also in his written judgment, he was also very you can tell that he had a certain dismissiveness to the case as well. The things he said about the quality of the arguments put forward, as well as certain, I mean, just the language he uses, just is just very salty, very salty.
The judge,
Yeah, the judge, very salty in the. Well, in the sense of like he's like, oh, you know, she claims to have over 40,000 subscribers or followers on Instagram, which in her own estimation makes her a celebrity. That's why she's suing and all that lah. Yeah.
So but then why do you want to talk about this? Because even hearing you give the timeline of events, it just feels like a private affair that for some reason has become news.
Yeah, I think okay, I mean, even like Xia she dissected all this a little bit in her own Instagram stories. I'm not recommending anyone go and read Xia Xue's Instagram stories lah, but you know she always does a pretty good job of making the most mundane things sound quite exciting also lah, right? But yeah, she does raise a point that you know, maybe Rachel Wong's strategy going into this was she thought if you sue someone for defamation and all that, you can actually keep everything under a lid, you know, it won't explode out of proportion.
Yeah.
But it seems that strategy seems to have completely backfired on her, lah. You know, instead of less people hearing about this whole thing, it has, you know, become literally headlines in Singapore and Malaysia. The Malay Mail also carried an article about this. So you know, I mean, maybe that's what she wants, but possibly it also brings more attention to her as an influencer as well. But besides that, I mean, the worst part is that she actually has to now produce like the actual diary entries and the actual correspondence she had with these two guys lah. And so she breaks it down to it has become a lose-lose situation for her, where, you know, let's say there was infidelity or anything like that, right? Then the text messages and all that would be very damning and would almost make her like she had committed perjury basically, if anything, if she said anything under oath about not having a relationship with these people and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, whereas then the other side is like if you don't want to release all these private texts and all that, then you drop the case. It also proves that in a court of public opinion that maybe you are guilty lah. That's why you don't dare to show hand lah, you know.
Yeah.
So it's I think just in terms of her failed strategy to try and close the lid on this all these allegations and all that. Is a good lesson to people, anyone who is facing a similar kind of situation lah, right? Where you've gotten into a somewhat public spat with somebody. And you want to use the law to shut them up, you know, as opposed to mediation or just talking to the person and everything like that, lah, right?
Because I mean, but that also means that that strategy is not the best if maybe there is some truth to the allegations, lah.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, not only the best, but it seems to have completely backfired in her.
Because
sense,
if it's totally false allegations, let's say someone is really coming up with some nonsense shit, then you want to sue, it's fine lah. Because unless you hand over your laptop or something, then they find porn lah. Then you're fucked.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's not relevant to the case. I think they whatever lah. You know, they can't just.
Are you sure or not? Like so many cases.
It's not the police, right? It's the you're heading over to the lawyers lah on the other side, right?
I guess, but it just feels like if you have porn on your laptop in Singapore and your laptop is not in your hands, right?
They'll find it.
Someone will find it. Someone will find it. Maybe if it's not their jurisdiction, they'll be like, yo, cops, we found a laptop with porn, man.
Yeah.
Send this
But Harish, women don't watch porn. Women don't watch porn.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot.
What are you talking about?
I forgot. Women don't watch porn. Correct. What was I talking about?
What are you thinking?
Yeah. Oh, stupid me. Oh my God. I forgot that one universal truth.
So if she was completely innocent, right? Like nothing, then you'll be like, okay lah, just take my diary entries lah, right? You know.
But still, I mean, even if she's completely innocent, she still has to pay legal fees, right?
Correct.
But maybe it's one of those things that if she is completely innocent, and the diary may reveal some other stuff, but if it proves that she's innocent, like now the court of public opinion.
It's totally against her.
It's against her already. Like, even if she's acquitted, even if she's proven to be innocent.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think people will care as much about the end result as they do about the case right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think a lot of people now are following the case because, you know, They want to know what's in the details of the text messages and the diary entries and all
But
that.
you think that will make the news?
You mean the end result of this case?
No, the end result probably lah. But the diary
Yeah.
entries and all that one, no lah, right? That one will
I think
be
only closer to the conclusion of the case, then you will hear more details about it lah.
because I think the judge's statement, they had some excerpts from the Olivia Wu's Instagram stories, right? Where it was a mix of like dialect and English, and you could tell the judge was thinking to himself, "Why the fuck am I working on this case?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, exactly.
Why? I don't give a shit about this." And so that was, I mean, I will say that this is interesting in the sense that how is this happening? That's the only way I can think of a way that this is interesting. Like how and why is this in so much news? And now we are talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, because remember we just came from a very, very big defamation case where Johnny Depp.
When you said very, very big defamation, I thought of something else. But
of what? What do you think of?
I mean, the first two syllables of defamation, and then and then you said a very big before that.
Big what? Defecation, like you're saying. See, there's the standard of humor. There's the standard of humor Harish is at on a Friday morning.
Just said, I just came from a very big defamation. Then I was like, hey, Terence, fuck, we don't need that info on the podcast.
So you can tell the level of humor that we're playing at. On a Friday morning with Harish woke up and had to go to the office a bit earlier.
Correct.
Than normal. Didn't get his beauty sleep last night.
But yes, very big defamation. Amber Heard, Johnny Depp. Please, Terence, carry on.
Correct. So I think that case was the Johnny Depp had to prove that Amber Heard lied, right?
Yeah.
And I think you can pretty much say he won, right? He managed to do so. He managed to prove that Amber Heard lied about a lot of things, which actually, in the defamation trial is actually very hard to do, right?
Yeah.
But he managed to do it with his quite strong legal team and everything.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, I feel like Miss Rachel Wong, I feel like she's been let down by her legal team, if anything. Like if anything, they are supposed to ideally protect you further against any issues like this coming up. And if the legal team had really put in a good case that, she already has suffered so much damage from this thing, how can you let her suffer more damage by having to reveal more of her private life and all that? I think if I'm not a lawyer, and I didn't read the judgment, I didn't read the appeal or anything, but I feel like the judge was also making references that the legal team didn't put forward the case very well. Like he didn't understand what the defamation trial and which part of it was defamatory or the content, and maybe it boils down to how much of it is true, right? Or how much of the alleged defamatory content is actually true. If a lot of it is true, then what is there to actually sue someone for defamation for, right? But I mean, let's go away from the legal side of things, Just because you are having organizing a wedding soon, or that, Like, how would you feel if you're like the next day you woke up for your wedding and then you've discovered that your bride slept in the arms of the wedding MC the night before, or the same night?
How do you think I would feel? Of course, fucked up lah. Like when you got married 6 years ago, I'm sure you would have felt. I was the MC to your wedding.
Yeah, you were the MC. Yeah. So it would have been pretty fucked up.
It's just fucked up.
Like, you had a hotel room also, right? Like,
I did have a hotel room.
The same hotel.
I did have a hotel room. I ate the wonderful breakfast and all that.
Alone.
I was alone lah.
For context sake, there was a room for all the brothers and everything, but only Harish decided to stay, right?
Yeah, and I was going out with someone at that. Oh no, I thought I did ask that person to come, but no she didn't. And I just went to this huge room by myself, and I ate breakfast alone by myself. But like hearing that story also, right, is like, what the fuck? It's not just cheating with someone else, it's cheating with the MC of your wedding on your wedding night.
Wedding night, yeah.
And of
It
course,
sounds-
that is an allegation,
Allegation.
but holy shit, man.
There's some Netflix like K-drama material.
Because I mean, this whole thing sounds messy, lah. Okay, because the person who put out the Insta stories accusing her in the first place is the friend of Rachel's
The new girlfriend.
ex-husband's current girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it just feels like, why is she getting involved? That's why it just feels there's probably so much, like it's just one messy, steaming, like pile of, like a hot mess kind of thing. But the fact that it's in the news just makes me go like, oh man. And yeah, like I think maybe it's just people are curious about what's going to happen because it's like watching a TV show. It's a TV show.
Correct. Yeah.
It's a
But I
TV
mean,
show.
I think one thing to point out is also that we've only heard like one side of the story
Yeah.
so far. We've not heard. I mean, we've heard that allegedly Rachel Wong might have cheated and all that, right? But you don't know what happens on the other side of the husband and all this, the ex-husband and everything as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's before everyone jumps to conclusions, don't I think don't flood her with negative comments, because I think now everyone's doing the NGL.link thing.
Not
it's like
gonna
anonymous. No, it's like
questions and all,
anonymous
is it?
questions
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
can ask people, and then somehow I think they post it directly on Instagram stories or something like that, lah.
Yeah.
So I think she's starting to get some questions about if you loved your ex-husband, why would you annul the marriage and stuff like that.
Correct. Yeah.
And she's had to answer saying, at the end of the day, you discover, the process of self-discovery, you discover you're not the person who used to be that person that was dating, ex-husband, whatever. So, like you say, it's a messy situation. Talk about like a bunch of young people, good looking, probably a lot of options in their lives, and then realizing, hey, maybe I don't want to cross this milestone of my life yet, lah. And so they annul their marriage and everything like that. So, I mean, I don't want to rush to judge her or anything like that. But I think if anything, the court case has just sort of forced the spotlight on it, and here we are talking about it, lah. Even though at the same time talking about don't judge them.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, yeah, it's just, I guess, is a TV drama, lah. It's a TV drama.
Yeah, it's a TV drama. But yeah. Do you know of these influencers before that? Rachel Wong?
Yeah, I know of them.
You know?
I know of them. I don't know them, lah. I know of them.
As in follow?
No?
No. Then how you know of them?
I know of them doesn't mean I follow.
Oh, okay.
You mean everyone you know of, you follow?
You use the Ministry of Funny account and follow?
No lah, hey, hello. You can go and check lah, bro.
This is like the legalese already. I never follow.
Because I take the time.
Ministry of Funny account, I follow.
I take the time to get to know the industry and who's there and all that. Yeah.
This is the industry, man.
I mean, it's content creator industry. Like they're all actors also, actors and actresses.
As the judge says, in her own estimation, she's a celebrity.
Just because you're in the industry doesn't mean you're a celebrity. Just because you're... Yeah lah.
Exciting.
Somewhat exciting lah.
Yeah.
But speaking of things that are exciting.
Yes, correct.
Shall we jump onto the one Shiok comment of the past few days?
Yeah.
Yeah,
what
man.
What is your one Shiok comment?
My one Shiok comment comes on the thread of the podcast 304 where we talked about Lawrence Wong unveiling Forward Singapore. I think on the episode I mentioned that the Forward Singapore phrase or that kind of terminology feels like we have heard it so many times in the past for different task force, different papers, different, consultation periods. And I couldn't remember many other terms except for one, like the emerging stronger conversations. But original Goat 1 took the time to kind of help us refresh our memory and listed the various terms over the years. Starting with 1997, there was Singapore 21, 2002, there was the Economic Review Committee, plus Remaking Singapore, 2009 Economic Strategy Committee, 2012 our Singapore Conversation, and so on. I haven't verified how accurate that is, but I give this comment the benefit of the doubt, and thanks for the memory refresh, man.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you see it all together, it is quite funny lah.
Yeah, every 3-4 years there's something like, right?
Yeah, there's
new
there's
catchphrase.
something lah. Yeah, correct.
I mean, it pretty much dovetails with like every after every election.
Mm.
There's usually something.
Yeah, correct.
A new
Or
social compact.
Or some new high position change lah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what about you, man?
My Shiok comment is on the the hotly discussed episode 303 about Roe v. Wade. Majestic economists. I mean, on a slight tangent, say, what if in 20 years' time the Singapore courts make a ruling on Harish v. Terence regarding the right to abort a birthday? Citing Terence, the courts ruled that every birthday has a right to be celebrated by friends and family, even if the person whose birthday it was doesn't want it celebrated. The sanctity of birthdays must be celebrated, the court concluded, with no exceptions, even if the birthday boy or girl is ill or has the celebration forced on them. How would Harish feel? Would he be upset at the infringement of his rights, or will he finally be able to accept that birthdays are meant to be celebrated? So I want to give a shout out to this comment because it's such a meta play on something that we had discussed in the podcast, and also the topic of the actual podcast itself about the infringement of your privacy versus your the sanctity of a birthday to be celebrated. Yeah. So it's a pretty funny comment.
But
can I find out? I also kind of I think I know where your pronunciation of birthday comes from already.
What? Where?
It was like if you go back to the year 2000 and was it 2001 or something like that when hip hop ruled the airwaves, and this was the only song that you would hear anytime you entered the club.
Oh.
Go shorty, it's your birthday. We go to party like it's your birthday.
So he said it as birthday.
Yeah, he pronounces it birthday in the song.
No, but how do you say birthday? Do you take the time to say the birthday, or you
I
just
say more
birthday?
I say more like birthday, but I say birthday.
Yeah,
I will do
birthday,
the I F.
So you F it lah. You F
birthday,
it.
I F it. Yeah.
You F it. I D it lah. Birthday.
I don't birthday.
Birthday.
But I realized, I was trying to like, what is this birthday thing? Then I'm like, oh yeah, it is from 50 Cent in the the seminal club hit In the Club. Yeah, shorty, it's your birthday. It's your way of like sounding badass and saying it, right?
Exactly. And the other day when I was with my mom, I just asked her, Mom, what do you how do you make that, what do you call that thing you make with eggs in a pan and all? And she said omelette. I was like, that's where I got it from.
It's a family thing.
The family. So if you ever meet my mom, don't ask her for an omelette. Ask her for an omelette.
Ask her. You should ask her also how she says birthday.
Oh yeah. I'll ask her. I'll ask her next time.
Yeah. Maybe she's a 50 Cent fan as well.
Maybe, yeah. She's like, that rapper 50 Cent? Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
Now for the one Shiok thing of the past few days. Would you like to go first this time?
Yeah, it's a Netflix show that I don't think a lot of people have watched. That's why I heartily recommend it. It's called You Don't Know Me. And it's a UK Netflix show. 4 episodes only, limited series. I mean, it's kind of a courtroom drama, but not really, and not so much about courtroom, but it's just a guy in a who's in the middle of a court case, a murder court case, and basically is defending himself, and he's just retelling the story of how he ended up there. So I think it's interesting because the ending is a bit the ending is a little bit ambiguous, and it's up to the audience. It's up to you as the audience member to figure out what was the verdict and everything in the end, lah. So it's it's not like your usual Netflix high octane drama from episode 1 or episode 2 onwards. There's a bit of a slow build, but then when the twists and turns are happening, it's like, oh, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. And what's the show
it shows
called?
Like British urban life on the British streets and all that, which is a bit different. They use interesting terms like "What's up, fam?" Hey, cuz, that kind of thing, which we don't hear about. We don't hear that much on US TV, right?
Is a limited series.
4 episodes, just 4 episodes.
And what made you want to watch it?
I was looking for thriller courtroom dramas, and then this one came up. And my last experience with a British a British courtroom drama was pretty good also. Anatomy of a Scandal.
You like anything to do with courtroom, Like, that's even the Richard Wong case or courtroom
yeah.
only. You're like, fuck, let's talk about it, man.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting when you take the, because I mean, to us we don't deal with the law on a day-to-day basis, and it baffles us sometimes. How come certain things are very obvious, but how come the law can't do anything about it? And then we understand the intricacies of it. Then you're like, oh, okay, that's why it's like that, and all that. And the law affects us in every day in every way.
I see.
Isn't it interesting to also sometimes watch it as part of entertainment as well?
Fair point.
Yeah. Actually, today's discussion was about a law minister.
Yeah, law
court
minister
case, and then now we might one Shiok Thing also.
Yeah, one Shiok Thing also. Then even the one Shiok Comment also something to do with law.
Yeah. That's right.
So, Terrence, you need
Law
to
episode.
chill the fuck out, man.
So, what is your chill one Shiok Thing?
My one Shiok Thing is the annual Mark Twain Prize for Comedy was given out recently, and it went to Jon Stewart. So the Mark Twain Prize actually is not, I don't think it's that well known a prize, but it's probably the most prestigious thing that a comedian can get in the US. I think there have been maybe 9 or 10 winners so far. You get winners like Dave Chappelle, Tina Fey, and
Bill Cosby. Did Bill Cosby win it?
Oh, maybe that one I don't know. But it's basically everyone who has won it, you will know of them. Like Will Ferrell also won it, and it's just anyone who has contributed a lot to comedy. This year was Jon Stewart, and traditionally the winner gives a speech, but in the lead up to that, he invites some of his closest friends or peers to give like a homage speech also. So this year, Jon Stewart's speech, it was okay, it was good, but the people who gave the speeches leading up, like Dave Chappelle, Steve Carell, and even Olivia Munn, they were damn good and very good for different reasons. Like Dave Chappelle, his was super heartfelt and he's just a master orator. So he just spoke very nicely. But I think my favorite of all was Steve Carell. It's so funny. And they're like 5 to 8 minutes each. And you watch it and you're like, wow, shit. You watch it in a bit of awe because all these people, if you're like in your 30s now, chances are you may have seen them when they were starting out. And then to see them all accomplish these things together as like the same age group, there's something very special there.
Yeah.
And it's very earnest and very sincere. And yeah, it just warms the cockles of your heart, man. But if you have time for one, I would say Steve Carell. I fucking loved his.
Yeah, according to Wikipedia, it's awarded for having had an impact on American society in ways similar to Mark Twain.
Oh, okay.
So it's quite specific. So I guess your social standing and your general public reputation is an important part of it also, right?
Yeah. So is the Mark Twain Prize for American humor? That's the only prize, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. So
since 1998. So it's not that old. It's not that old.
It's named Mark after Twain due to his status as a controversial social commenter, an uncompromising perspective of social injustice and personal folly. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So the winners so far have been Richard Pryor, Jonathan Winters, Carl Reiner, Whoopi Goldberg.
Bill Cosby, 2009, Bill Cosby.
Oh shit, Bill Cosby. Fuck.
It was rescinded in 2018.
That didn't age well. Oh, even Ellen got Jay Leno, Eddie Murphy, Bill Murray, Dave Chappelle, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So David Letterman. So yeah, so normally the speeches all are very entertaining. So, but yeah, this year, just check it out. It's good fun.
Interesting. Yeah.
Cool, man.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. Back down with our third podcast of the week.
Yeah.
I guess have a good weekend, man.
Yeah. Don't be too uptight about all the law and order that we had in this episode. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Just chill out.
Cool. And talk to y'all soon.